and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Here are the day's top business stories. U.S. Federal Reserve will announce its rate decision in an hour from now. Investors around the world wait with bated breath. Majority expecting a 75 basis point rate hike. Stock markets on tenterhooks. Sensex and Nifty end volatile session with marginal losses. Auto shines, metal, IT drag. Mayhem continues in the cryptocurrency market. Investors jittery after restrictions imposed by largest exchange, Binance, sell their holdings. Bill Gates joins in trashing virtual assets, calls them a sham. Big Business Today TV Newsbreak confirmed 5G spectrum auction approved by the Union Cabinet will deliver 10 times the data speed available today. Auctions to be on 26th of July. Group of ministers on GST rate rationalization meet this Friday. Sources say big decisions may be unlikely given the present economic conditions. Government taking extra care with the steps which could trigger further inflation. Big blow to India agri exports. UAE prohibits Indian wheat exports for 4 months. Restrictions apply to both wheat and wheat flour. Sources say the West Asian Emirate is concerned about phytosanitary conditions. Global stock markets have been in a volatile phase with a negative bias now for some time. Rising inflation worldwide has become the bone of contention for central banks and economists across the world. Investors remain convinced that a fresh 40-year peak in U.S. inflation will prompt the Fed to take up more aggressive hikes in COVID-era interest rates and in turn hamper economic growth. The Fed Reserve may be looking to raise interest rates by 75 basis points. That's the biggest hike in 28 years. But a bigger surprise later today could be if the Fed only hikes rates by 50 basis points. However, markets have braced for a hawkish Fed. Investors will be looking for signals that the central bank is willing to get even tougher with rate hikes.
If the Fed decides to raise rates by 75 basis points at this June meeting, I think it's going to put additional pressure on consumers because now they're going to have to pay more in terms of interest rates to borrow, to buy a car, to buy a home, etc. It won't, however, have an effect on gasoline prices because that's more dependent on fuel availability, supply chain disruptions, and the tensions still occurring in the Ukraine.
Indian equity benchmarks fail to hold on to the green in yet another choppy session. Losses in oil and gas and IT shares pulling headline indices lower. Gains in financials and auto stocks limited the downside somewhat. Domestic indices were muted as global investors treaded cautiously in anticipation of aggressive rate hike action by the U.S. Fed Reserve. The Nifty declined for the 4th day in a row and ended below 15,700. Sensex 2 slipping 152 points at 52,541. However, the broader market managed to sustain in the green. Among some of the top laggards today on the index, ONGC, NTPC, Infi, Wipro, Coal India, while the gainers were Bajaj Finserv, Bajaj Finance, Tata Motors, Hero Moto and Grasim. The big news break yesterday by Business Today TV on the Union Cabinet having approved the spectrum pricing for 5G auctions, which will usher in 10 times faster data speeds than available currently, was confirmed this morning. The government on Wednesday approved a proposal to auction high-speed 5th generation or 5G telecom spectrum for 20 years starting July 26. Radio waves totaling 72 gigahertz with 20 years of validity will be auctioned across the low, mid and high frequency bands. The government has also decided to do away with upfront payment for airwaves. The successful bidders can pay the 5G spectrum in 20 annual installments. Let's head across to Business Today TV's Chetan Bhutani, who first broke the story here on Business Today. Chetan, what does 5G spectrum auction mean for India's telecom sector?
That's right, Abha. Business Today TV was the first to break the story on the Union Cabinet taking up the approval of 5G spectrum auctions. Well, now it's been confirmed after nearly 24 hours of wait. Well, in a big move, the Union Cabinet on Wednesday approved the auction of 5G spectrum which means that India could soon see 5G, and the reality would be that it would be about 10 times more faster than the current 4G network. Well, a total of about 72 gigahertz of spectrum will be put to auction for a time span of about 20 years, and the auction will be held in low, medium and high frequency bands, with telecom companies opting favorably in favor of the medium and the high frequency bands. Well, this in a significant relief for telecom companies is that they don't have to pay the upfront amount, and the government has done away with this clause, and instead they'll be allowed to pay in about 20 EMIs for 20 years, starting each of every year. Well, the auction of airways is set to begin on July 26th, and as per the notice inviting tender, which is the most crucial document which sets the timeline, the last date of application for submission of bids is about July 8th. But the government has also allowed setting up of private captive networks to enable new age companies in artificial intelligence and innovation. So clearly in times to come, we could soon see 5G being a reality in India.
Great, Chetan. Thanks so much for joining us with that big news break. Now, a crucial meeting of the group of ministers on GST rate rationalization is likely on the 17th of June. On its agenda, rationalization of GST rates as well as merger of GST slabs to make the procedure smoother and hassle-free. For more information, we're joined by my colleague Karishma Sudani. Karishma, what's the big agenda of this meeting?
Well, right, the big aspect on the agenda has to be on the merger of slabs that GST GOM on rate rationalization will be looking at. In fact, if a report is prepared well within time, then the same will also go to GST Council, which is likely to convene in the first week of July as per sources. That's going to be the 47th GST Council. Now, the last time that a group of ministers on rate rationalization met, they took certain decision on rolling back the hike in GST that they had decided on textiles. Now, this meeting could also in fact discuss on the correction of inverted duty scheme on textiles. Besides this, the government may also take a call to refer to certain other issues on hike in GST or on slab mergers on certain products that could be considered. Well, only if the report is finalized, this will go to the council and a final decision will only be taken by the council. We are also being told that Fitment Committee has met multiple times to also discuss, and a report has been submitted to the group of ministers on rate rationalization.
All right, Karishma, thanks so much for joining us with that. The 3-day World Trade Organization Ministerial Conference in Geneva has been extended by a day to allow participating nations to come to an agreement. The developed and developing nations have been at loggerheads over nearly every issue discussed. While the West has hardened positions on the issue of patent waiver on COVID-19 vaccines, drugs and equipment, developing countries led by India are pressing for a balanced outcome on fisheries and agriculture issues. For more on the deadlock, let's go to Rahul Srivastava, National Affairs Editor, who is currently covering the event in Geneva. Rahul, take us through all the latest.
The news from the Ministerial Conference 12th at the WTO in Geneva is not very good. 164 countries had gathered to perhaps create a solution and agreement on 3 very critical issues: agriculture, fisheries and TRIPS waiver on vaccines, drugs and equipment. From the day one, contradictory positions have been taken by advanced nations and developing nations and the less developed countries. The end result is a virtual lack of consensus of any one of them. Primarily what is being seen is that entrenched positions are such which are signaling that more and more people may eventually like to go back home with no outcomes instead of having a bad outcome. The Director General of WTO, in an effort to push for some solution, something to take back home, has extended the WTO conference by 1 more day. But is that going to have an impact? Not really. Sources are telling us that on the issue of agriculture, countries like India are extremely clear. There is going to be no dilution as far as the demand for a permanent solution on the stock holdings is concerned or the subsidies to farmers is concerned. On the issue of fisheries, countries like India are now very clear that polluters pays first concept needs to be applied. The big nations have big trawlers, big companies fishing beyond their national waters, and they are demanding that there should be a removal of subsidy as far as small fishermen in countries like India are concerned. Nations have very small fishing communities. A country like India has almost 90 lakh fishermen who are dependent on government subsidies. Without them, their subsistence will be very difficult. On the issue of TRIPS waiver, yet again, virtually no consensus, as countries like India, South Africa and others are very clear that there needs to be an effort, a response by the WTO to the pandemic in a way that countries prepare for a future pandemic also, not just the current one. India has contested that vaccines in lakhs are getting waste because of expiry dates, but big companies are not ready to part with the technology to create vaccines and improve access to vaccines, despite the fact that in poor countries like in Africa especially, a large number of people are yet to be vaccinated, while the developed countries have already seen 3 doses being administered. Now, if all these issues don't get worked out, there is also a serious question mark over the WTO's capability to handle global trade and issues related to it. Will WTO eventually come up with a solution? The next 24 hours will tell. In Geneva, Rahul Srivastava for India Today.
It's the peak summer here with temperatures reaching 50 degrees in parts of the country. But for crypto investors, the winter is getting worse. These extreme risk takers have seen their crypto fortunes collapse in the past few weeks. And it's not just the average retail investors hoping to make a quick buck. The big boys of the crypto world have seen their billions evaporate in the ongoing meltdown. From 19 crypto billionaires worldwide just a few months ago, there are only 2 that are left. 7 of the world's richest crypto founders have lost a combined $114 billion since November. Here's more on the deep winter in the world of crypto assets.
जो इन्वेस्टर्स क्रिप्टो करेंसी में इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, उनको ये माइंड में रखना चाहिए कि जो भी वो इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं वो उनके खुद के रिस्क पे कर रहे हैं. दे आर इन्वेस्टिंग एट देयर ओन रिस्क. उनको ये भी माइंड में रखना चाहिए कि ये जो क्रिप्टो करेंसी है इसका कोई अंडरलाइंग नहीं है, नॉट इवन अ ट्यूलिप.
Few paid heed to this warning just 4 months ago, dismissing it as yet another effort by the government and regulators to undermine the new age, high-return world of cryptocurrencies. The same investors are licking their financial wounds now. Bitcoin, the flagship crypto, is down and around 70% since hitting its lifetime high of $67,000 in November. Ether is down 76% from its high and 37% in just a week. Binance has lost 2/3 of its value from its lifetime high in November. Cardano is down a whopping 85%, while Ripple has lost 80% of its value. It's been a big fall from grace for the crypto markets, valued at more than $3 trillion just 8 months ago, larger than even India's GDP, to a little less than $900 billion today.
While small investors have heavily lost in this financial rout, crypto billionaires have not been spared either. A couple of months ago, there were a total 19 crypto billionaires, and now there are just 2. Changpeng Zhao, the richest of them all, saw his wealth erode from $65 billion to a mere $10 billion.
Analysts cite various reasons for this fall, ranging from steep global inflation to hike rates by central banks across the world. There's also the regulatory squeeze in several countries, including India, where cryptocurrencies have not been banned, but their trading is discouraged via high taxes, payment restrictions, and uncertainty due to absence of laws. However, it is the crash in confidence amongst investors which has pulled the rug. First, there was the crash of Teleluna this month. It lost its peg to the US dollar and saw its value vanishing into thin air. Then, one of the world's largest decentralized finance platforms, Celsius, stopped all trading to prevent a run on its deposits. At its peak, Celsius was managing $20 billion belonging to around 2 million investors. On Monday, the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, restricted trading for more than 24 hours.
For a once sunrise industry, these are the darkest times yet. Major crypto players like BlockFi, Gemini, Coinbase, etc. have all stopped hiring and have rescinded offers. Moreover, they have also let go of thousands of people. How long will this crypto winter last? Nobody is willing to take a guess. This was Akanksha Chaturvedi for Business Today TV.
We're now joined by our in-house crypto reporter, Akanksha Chaturvedi, and a panel of experts, including Rajagopal Menon, Vice President, WazirX, Smith Thakur, Tech Diligence, Delta Blockchain Fund. Akanksha, let me come to you first. What are some of the current rates? What are the kind of volatility that we've seen, the kind of drop that we've seen? And then I'll also go across to our experts.
Yes, Abha, like you just mentioned that the crypto markets are witnessing a crash. The global market cap has fallen around 5%. It's currently at around $905 billion as we speak. Bitcoin has fallen to its December 2020 levels. It's trading at around $21,000. It has also fallen 5% in the last 24 hours. Ethereum, which is the second most valuable cryptocurrency, it has also fallen. It has taken a deep dive of around 8% in the last 24 hours, and it is trading at around $1,100. Over to you, Abha.
All right, thanks for that, Akanksha. Smith, what are some of the factors that have been causing or that are to blame for the kind of crash we've seen in the crypto market?
Multiple factors for the same. First of which being the fall of Terra Luna, which happened a month ago. So multiple companies were connected to Terra Luna, the Luna coin and UST coin by Terra Labs. So fall of that led to like close to $20 billion wiped out of the crypto market, and it had a domino effect on other projects as well. So as retail investors lost a lot of money, there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market. So this led to death spiral of multiple coins. Multiple projects started failing. Recently, in the last week, multiple projects which hold billions of dollars worth of TVL are facing liquidity crisis, liquidity crunch, wherein a lot of retail investors had invested money. So during such cases, when retail investors try to pull out the money, these companies start liquidating their crypto assets, which led to the fall of coins. So if retail investors start withdrawing money from these platforms have to sell their holding in order to give withdrawals to the users. This led to fall of the entire crypto market.
Sure. Rajagopal Menon, how has this impacted Indian investors? If we take a closer look, how deep is the impact here?
So Abha, we'd just like to zoom out a little. The start of the new year, things have not been very nice at a nice place for the global economy. You had rising interest rates because of high inflation. You had a war. You have a war in Europe. China's supply chain woes, because of their zero COVID policy. So overall, the world economy is not in a very good shape, which has affected prices of sectors across the spectrum. So just to give you a perspective, Netflix is down by 75% over the last 6 months. Zomato, which is an Indian company, is down by about 50%. You are an expert in the BSE and NSE. They've also had a free fall in the last 2 or 3 days. So the focus to blame Bitcoin and crypto for a crash, yes, it's a part of a larger global economy. Now, to compound all that, in India we've had a couple of unique situations. One is in the budget, the finance minister announced a 30% tax plus a 1% TDS on every crypto transaction that happens. What that has happened is that after the 1st of April, most people who trade heavily in the crypto exchanges have stopped trading. Volumes are down substantially. So that has led to a severe fall in volumes, which is why, and the banks are also not very comfortable working with crypto exchanges. So those are the 3 factors that have affected volumes in the crypto exchanges at this point of time: the global economy, the new tax laws, plus the banks refusing to work with crypto exchanges.
Okay, Smith. So then, has this crash also affected other Web.3 companies?
Yes, this has definitely affected a lot of Web3 companies. So companies who were directly invested into UST, Luna, or were holding their treasury or the treasury wallet balances in these coins or volatile coins, definitely took a hit. Now globally, trading in crypto, volumes in crypto are going down. So a lot of international exchanges have started laying off people due to the decrease in volumes. So this has definitely affected a lot of Web3 companies in the crypto ecosystem.
Okay, Rajagopal, could you also help us understand why Binance, with which WazirX is involved, stopped all withdrawals on its platform?
No, that is, I think what had happened was that there was one transaction for a Bitcoin withdrawal that got stuck, which was a very large transaction. So Binance had temporarily paused withdrawals for Bitcoin for a brief period of time. I think this was yesterday. That was for about half an hour. And now things are back to normal, is my guess. Unless you know more than I do. But that's what happened. One transaction got stuck, which acted as a bottleneck.
Okay, Smith, what about, some clarity on how the crash has impacted VC funding for crypto projects? I think I read somewhere about one small or mid-sized company getting funded just yesterday, but these are, of course, smaller packages. Do you think it'll have an overall impact on the kind of flow we're seeing for crypto projects?
Yeah, definitely. If you ask me, this is probably the best time for VC companies to fund the projects, because during this time you get better valuations, you get only serious teams, serious projects looking to build out the best projects with the best tech minds. Now, if you look at the current bull market of 2022, 2021, 2022, the best companies, the rockstar companies which gave like multi-fold return to investors, were all formed in the bear market of 2017 to 2020. And there has been some decrease in funding, but the best projects which were which has the best minds, which are actually solving the problems, are getting funded every day. Like, I personally know a lot of companies which got funded recently last week.
Yeah.
So funding has slowed down a bit, valuations have come down a bit, but this is the best time for VCs to invest into good projects.
Okay. Rajagopal, are Indian investors looking at this dip then as a buying opportunity despite the heavy taxation that's been applied on the sector?
Abha, what has happened is that trading levels have dropped. So, the day traders, the high frequency traders, the algo traders, that volume has come down substantially to the tune of about 60%. What that leaves is small investors, retail investors like yours truly, people who believe in crypto. So what they're doing is that and I'm assuming that this is true for investors the world over, is that they use this opportunity to buy small portions of their favorite coins or tokens. It's called dollar cost averaging, where you buy little chunks of your favorite tokens over a period of time to average your cost lower. So yes, a lot of people whom we call hodlers are actually buying their favorite cryptos and sitting on it and saying that, okay, fine, we'll ride it out. We will see what happens 3 to 5 years later, which is how you should be investing.
All right. So, Smith, what are people and investors saying? I know I asked Rajagopal this as well. After Celsius and Binance stopped all withdrawals, what's your take on it?
Yeah, so Binance definitely enabled the withdrawals in a few hours. So that's the best news until now. Celsius still hasn't enabled the withdrawals, and most of the retail Celsius investors into Celsius, most of them are retail investors, because Celsius was giving out good returns, 7 to 8% compared to what US banks give, and majority of the investors in Celsius are retail investors from the US. So this definitely is a bit of a dicey thing. Once Celsius opens up withdrawals, this would definitely be a big relief for crypto market, and looks like the market would stabilize a bit if Celsius enables the withdrawals.
All right, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us and taking us through some of the latest developments in the crypto world, Web3, and lots more. Thanks for joining us. That's about all we could pack into this edition of the show tonight. Thanks so much for watching.